Ghost of Yotei was amazing. It was successful. It sold literally millions of copies. Have you seen the bamboo cutting minigame? It's amazing. Have you seen the field of nothing where you're supposed to ride through it for 3 minutes straight? But it's really pretty, so it's actually very cool. Exactly. Only bigots and chuds think that Ghost of Yotei was bad. It was, in fact, very good indeed. Oh, yes. Only hot lips people would ever think that that it was bad. Wait a minute. But I'm hot lips based guy. Oh, yes. Ghost of Yotei. Still a disaster. And now they literally fired the CEO of the game because obviously successful games fire their CEOs and don't make DLCs. Yes, obviously. But Sony said it was a success. Or Nintendo or whichever. Pick one slop company that said it was a success. Yes. Yes, you 50 IQ brainlet. Saying it's a success or it performed better than they expected is literally an unliable statement. It doesn't actually mean that it's good. It just means instead of 3 copies, it sold a whopping 4 copies. That's what it means. And you can't understand that. And you're trying to have a conversation. I don't think you deserve equal rights.
Don't fail.
By the way, this was so predictable because we talked about this. We did the numbers. We literally did the basic preschool kindergarten math on this. Ghost of Yotei is selling 10 times slower than Ghost of Tsushima. That is not successful. That means by the time that the Ghost of Yotei sells the same amount of copies as Ghost of Yotei right now, it's going to be 10 years later. That is not successful.
It failed me for the last time.
What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the chronically charismatic Dr. Disaster. And, as we have talked about on this channel before, a key metric...
Oh, is this gonna be a I am woman hear me roar moment? Because that would be perfect.
...determining the success of a marketing strategy for a video game sequel to an original game is whether or not it
I mean, no, but this is pretty much still I am woman hear me roar.
...sells that original game. If it does not, then you probably did something to lose your goodwill with some of the fans.
Nice.
After all, the second installment in a series has a significant advantage over the original game because now the developers are working with a well-known IP. A sequel has a built-in fan base, and it is therefore expected to outsell the original game, especially when we...
Yes, this is basic logic. I applied this many of a time, but some people couldn't understand it. And it's, if you sell a thing and it sells 10 things, and you make the second thing and it's better, are you expecting to sell now 5 things? No, you're expecting to sell more than 10.
You're talking about a AAA title from a major gaming studio which can spend millions and millions of dollars on marketing and ensuring that everyone knows this game exists. But Ghost of Yotei did not outsell Ghost of Tsushima despite all of its advantages, and I think it is pretty clear that this is because the studio pissed a lot of people off with the way that they handled the sequel and the way that they embraced controversy by not handling the Charlie Kirk scenario that they were embroiled in very well, and because they replaced the much-loved Jin Sakai.
God, I love these games, by the way. I love these games so much because... You see, this is why, like, look at this. Look at this. This is why everyone was, look at the bamboo mini cutting game, because this is the actual gameplay. It's not that great. Now, granted, this is no really different than Ghost of Yotei, but if you're bad at playing this game, it just kind of reveals that it's the gameplay itself is not the greatest. Because this is like, look at this. You're surrounded from, you're literally encroached, right? And they're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, sure. Put your back against us and nothing's gonna happen. This is... Bro, if this was Baki, okay? Well, they would already be probably dead by Yuichiro. But if this...
well, and because they replaced the much-loved Jin Sakai with this weirdo here, an actress that a shit ton of people find off-putting. Many of us
Yes, extremely off-putting, in fact.
Looked at Erika Ishii and thought,
What the hell is this?
well, whether or not this was something that personally bothered you or not, Yotei did not sell as well as Ghost of Tsushima. The last reports that we saw indicated that the game was somewhere around 20% behind its predecessor, and keep in mind that Yotei was released in the fall, meaning that it got a boost in its first few months from Black Friday and holiday sales versus Tsushima, which released in the summer, which is generally considered a dead zone for AAA releases. With all of this in mind, it looks like a consequence of Sucker Punch's failures to capitalize on the success of their game has resulted in Sony removing the studio head of Sucker Punch from his position.
Good.
Did we do a good job?
Get the fuck out of here!
It was announced several days ago that the head of Sucker Punch was leaving the studio after 3 decades, and a lot of folks talked about this as proof that Sony was upset at the failures of Ghost of Yotei, and I didn't really discuss it here because I wanted to be fair. After all, some people just retire.
I don't feel a need to be fair with these people. They lie, they misrepresent, they lie even more. These people are literally the ones that are gonna take a pen, have a pen in front of them, and they're gonna say, "No, that's a phone." And there's gonna be a pen right in front of you, and you're like, "No, that is clearly a pen. You see it, it's a pen." And they're like gonna be, "No, it's a phone." They're gonna lie straight to your face and hope that some other 40 IQ individual is gonna be like, "Oh, what if that is actually a phone?" And that's it. They cannot ever engage in actual conversation. This is why the woke people still have no idea what we call woke, because they need to constantly represent everything.
But I have said that if we found out that the guy was still looking for work, if he is still trying to get a job in the gaming industry, then that will be pretty strong confirmation that actually he was forced out of the company as a result of Ghost of Yotei not selling as well as Sony wanted. After all, he is the head of a prominent gaming studio. People don't just give that up and go look for some other job in the same industry.
Yes, exactly. By the way, I'll just give you one simple fact why this never happens. You see, the year that the bonus for the Ghost of Yotei doing good or bad is gonna hit is, well, the week 1 sales probably, but it's also the next year how it sells there. So if you're a CEO, you're not leaving the moment the game releases or a year after the game releases, because you're gonna, if it did good, you're just giving up your bonuses. Chances are you're giving up your bonuses for nothing. So you're staying at least a little bit so you can rake in that sweet, oh, the game was successful money. So the CEO leaving and pretty much just giving up his bonuses is the biggest red flag that you can have.
And now, lo and behold, this article just dropped, which directly quotes the head of Sucker Punch saying that he is still interested in working in gaming. This sure looks like pretty strong evidence that Sony...
I really don't know what's next. This is probably the strongest evidence I have ever seen that someone just got fired.
has seen the sales results for this latest game and decided that they were disappointed.
You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
Based.
Please make sure that you hit the like button on who have told me that you
There we go. Like the video right now.
Let's talk about this guy leaving Sucker Punch. Now, last we knew, the game had sold somewhere around 4 million units, which for most games is pretty damn good. And
yeah, for most non-triple games, this is successful. Honestly, it does look like currently, if you just say that a AAA game needs to sell at least 8 million copies, you're kind of right to break even. Just break even. So, this, which probably, well, we don't know the budget, but again, this was probably like 200, 300 million. So, 4 million copies sold is, again, Ghost of Yotei is probably broke even. That's my opinion at the end of the day. Well, or it's very close to breaking even. It's the same as Borderlands 4. Very close to breaking even, but there's no future after that.
Certainly, they made a lot of money on this game. The reported budget was something in the neighborhood of $70 million, which is extremely...
Yeah, again, I don't believe that $70 million bullshit. These are AAA games backed by fucking Sony. Also, fun fact, there's no... you can lie about the budget and no one's gonna do anything. For some reason, you're allowed to lie about the budget. Unless you make the game in the UK where you actually... some kind of freedom of information thing happens where you're supposed to actually give the real budget. But in America, for example, and the rest of the world, typically, you can lie. Again, Assassin's Creed Shadows officially was 136 million budget. Everything combined. The PR, the promotions, the development costs, the everything. 136 million. Only. By Yves Guillemot, the literal CEO of Ubisoft. So, yeah, if you want to believe these companies when they say, oh, our game was only 100 million, yeah, that's on you, buddy. That is on you. If these games actually cost like only 100 million to make, all of them are profiting, and they're profiting massively. In fact, they're profiting. In fact, it makes gaming actually potentially better than the drug trade and weapons trafficking. Potentially on return or close to it. Gaming would be like, if these were the real budgets, then gaming would be like the most profitable business in the world, or at least one of them. Because you can make the first game, have everyone literally take a giant dump on it, and still expect to sell 2 million, 3 million copies. And if you can manage a budget of 100 million, you probably broke fucking even. You're probably breaking even in the next year and then making a profit in 2 years. That's pretty okay. And if you somehow sell 5 million, 6 million, or 10 million copies, which is possible, obviously, that means you can make 4 AAA games. But somehow, some magically, how? This is not the reality we are living in now, is it? Somehow, we have these AAA games that even 20 years ago literally like sold 20 million copies or whatnot, and somehow they did not get enough money to make 7 other AAA games. It didn't happen. It just didn't happen for some reason. It's strange. It's really strange how how somehow reality does not remotely even correlate these numbers given to us.
Low for a studio as large as Sucker Punch working on a game as large as Ghost of Yotei. In many ways, you would think that the head of this studio would be getting some praise from Sony for keeping costs under control. When you factor in the sales of the game against the development and marketing budgets of the title, Sucker Punch has likely made over $100 million on this venture. When you look at the costs of Yotei's contemporary games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, which had a development budget of somewhere around $250 million reportedly, well, that same strategy
goes Assassin's Creed Shadows again. 600 million minimum. You're not a failing company. But you're a failing company like this. You don't just well, let's cut back on the costs. No, you go all in because you have no other chance.
Would have potentially cooked Sucker Punch. So, on the one hand, I respect this guy's discipline who was heading up Sucker Punch. They reused a bunch of assets from Tsushima quite clearly, which drove down costs. That is honestly pretty smart because I'm a firm believer that if something ain't broke, then don't fix it. Too many sequels try to reinvent themselves, but on the other hand, they did try to reinvent themselves, at least in terms of story. The studio jumped on the girl boss bandwagon, abandoning Jin Sakai, even though
My favorite bandwagon.
there was plenty of room for his story to expand. Yotei first began development in 2021, which was at the height of wokeness in our culture, and I am certain that this helped inform their decision to replace the male main.
But look how pretty it is. There's literally nothing here, nothing to see, and it's just 3 minutes of riding. But it's pretty.
Character with a chick, especially when you look at what this studio head, Brian Fleming, has said that he potentially wants to do next with his career. Let's read this article from GameSpot though, so you can see what I'm talking about and why I am now fairly certain that this person was pushed out by Sony. I will be leaving a link in the description for the article, but anyhow, it says here, Sucker Punch Productions co-founder Brian Fleming is leaving the gaming studio after working there since it opened 28 years ago in 1997. What's he doing next? Fleming says he does not know. In a post on LinkedIn, Fleming said, "I really don't know what's next. He's staying with Sucker Punch through April of 2026 to help with the transition efforts, and after that, he said he plans to travel. He's also going to spend the time trying to sort out which opportunities he wants to pursue next." Fleming said he's considering a lot of different options for the future, including staying in games, moving to the wider technology space, getting into the entertainment business, and even working in the advocacy/politics areas. So, first of all, the dude is considering staying in video games, and that tells us an awful lot.
That tells us that I'm not sure how I feel about that. Probably bad.
About what went down. After all, the guy was at pretty much the peak that most people are aiming for in gaming. If you become a developer, chances are that your dream, at least at some point, is to one day run a studio of your own. Brian Fleming accomplished that, and in fact, he was even the head of a major and fairly successful studio. I can see no good reason why someone would willingly abdicate that spot in order to go and look for another job in the gaming industry. No, what this sounds like to me is a corporate firing. And what I mean by that is when a corporation wants to get rid of someone at an executive level, they are usually quite keen on saving face for everyone involved, so they craft a scenario where outwardly it appears as though the executive has decided to willingly move on. But behind the scenes, there were ultimatums and dealings that led to this choice. It is also worth noting the type of man that we're talking about here. One of the things the guy is considering doing is working in advocacy and politics, which is almost certainly code for pushing the left-wing progressive shit that so many of us are utterly sick of. This helps explain where the idea for Ghost of Yotei came from, doesn't it? But let's read a bit more of the article here. It says next, after 28 absolutely life-changing years at the helm of Sucker Punch, I've decided it's time to shake up
28? Yo, what the hell? That's a lot.
the snow globe, he said. Jason Connell, Ghost of Tsushima and Yotei co-creative director, and Adrian Bentley, technical director, will take over as co-studio heads on January 1st. Nate Fox will continue his role as
Oh, Jesus. Okay, this is even worse, by the way. Sony is pissed. Because you do not get co-studio heads typically, okay? That's not a good way to run any ship typically, okay? 2 captains is too many captains. So, yeah. That's not good. That's not good. That means that they don't really know what the hell to do at this point. They're kind of like, this is putting it on ice. This is effectively just kind of like putting it on ice. Unless these guys have like ironed out their dynamics and be like, okay, I'll do the legal stuff, I'll do the business side of things, and the other guy does the creative stuff, then that can be okay. Okay, this is not necessarily the biggest disaster, because there is that chance, but typically it is a disaster, though. Typically, this does not bode well.
Creative director, Fleming said he's leaving Sucker Punch in the capable hands of the strongest leadership team we've ever had. And now, let me just throw this out there. Whenever a company has two leaders announced that are taking over the role of one person, that is a certain sign that chaos and uncertainty are bubbling below the surface, and the people who put these people in charge had to make a snap decision, and they hedged their bets.
Wait. That's almost exactly what I saw. How does he know? I did not know Dr. Disaster had this kind of background. Wasn't he like a game shop owner or something like that? I mean, I did not expect him to know these things. I'm not gonna lie. The fact that he said pretty much the same thing as me, good quality, smart.
I don't think Sony is confident in either of these guys, which is why they didn't select one of them to actually be the head of the studio, and ultimately...
Yeah, maybe they're just trying to effectively find someone to do the thing, and they're just there for the moment.
This amounts
But that would also mean that if that's also, by the way, true though, that would mean that firing the previous CEO was kind of a rash decision or something. So that's also like super questionable. Everything seems to be going kind of poorly here, as far as I can tell.
A competition that is being staged between these two dudes to see who can impress them and ultimately win the job. In a year or two, I fully expect that we will hear that one person, maybe not even one of these new co-studio heads, but an outsider or something like that, but one person ultimately will have the job. Anyhow, what this all suggests is that Sucker Punch has done something that did not please Sony, and this Brian Fleming is paying the price, considering that they have announced that the next game that Sucker Punch is working on is not another Ghost of title. Well,
oh, no, we already knew this. Because Ghost of Yotei also doesn't have any DLCs planned, right? And if you don't have a DLC, then your game probably did not sell even close to well. That's the reality. DLCs are free money. Unless your game is garbage, they're free money. So the fact that they do, even Assassin's Creed Shadows, did one expansion because they were forced to. But, you get the point. DLCs cost a fraction of the development cost, and they make so much more.
That is another sign that Sony is displeased with Yotei. Word is that Sucker Punch is working on a Sly Cooper or an Infamous title next, and to be clear, that would have been like Naughty Dog abandoning the Uncharted series for a while after the mega success of the second game. That isn't happening unless they don't care for the results of that game's sales numbers. I know a lot of fanboys out there like to make excuses for Ghost of Yotei, but this all looks pretty damning. But I'm gonna leave it there. The head of Sucker Punch is still looking to work in the gaming industry. What do you make of all this? Drop your thoughts into the...
I mean, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Best case that we can honestly hope for is that the ex-CEO just had a disagreement about woke and said, hey, this whole situation is so bad just because of wokeness. But did that happen? I kind of doubt it. In any case, that was Dr. Disaster. 10 out of 10. Bye.